I am so excited to bring to you today a conversation that I had with Dr. Bernie Siegel about what it takes to live our very best lives, our healthiest lives, and our richest lives, our most meaningful lives. Now, if you don't know Dr. Bernie Siegel, he is a best-selling author of 19 books, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, spent many years on the New York Times bestseller list. He is a pediatric surgeon by training. He was trained at Yale as well as Cornell, and he spent many years bringing to light the power of how connecting with patients as people can really make a radical difference in their outcomes and their well-being. Dr. Bernie Siegel just turned 93. I told him I would air this on the week of his birthday and celebration of that. He's as articulate, as funny, as wise as ever, as sharp as ever. He has an important message to share with us all. So I was going to edit this, but then there was so much rich wisdom here. I wanted you to have the full conversation that we had. So I hope it blesses you as much as it did me. Here's Dr. Bernie Siegel. Just a thrill, and I love that you're thinking about writing another book, and you're
Well, I'll tell you,
incredible.
that's the thing that wears me out. I probably won't write another book because I don't, I'll be 93 in a short time, like next month. And I don't have the energy, to sit and dictate and write a
Right,
book. And
right,
yeah, if somebody interviewed me and I just talked for hours and they wrote a book, I'd say that's fine. But
right.
who knows? It could happen
Yeah,
because, as I say, why I give people hope. The only C's I got in 4 years of college were in creative writing.
there you go. And look at you, how many
Literally,
books you.
words never meant anything to me. Even my wife used to get annoyed with me. You never introduced me to anybody. I said, I can't remember their names. They were my patients. We'd meet them in the street. And they'd say, hi, Dr. Siegel. Hi, Bernie. And she'd say, why did you introduce me? I say, I don't remember who they are. So she would say, hi, I'm Bernie's wife. And then they'd say their names. And I'd remember, I could then remember their names. But I
Right.
knew them, okay? I knew what I had done to them and that they're my patients, but it's just their names.
Yeah,
And I'd say people to remember that. Brains are funny things.
yeah,
And it's interesting. But the images and the pictures, I learned an enormous amount from that too. That changed people in the hospital because they thought I was nuts. I did a lot of children's surgery, and I would get the children to draw pictures because it was easier to learn about them than from talking to them. So I could say, draw yourself in the operating room, draw your home and family. And then I could talk to the parents, and they were always, how do you know all that? But it's the kids' drawings.
mm,
And one, I may tell you this story, it said the anesthesiologist was so fascinated with my work that he made up a coloring book, 5 pages with images that the kids colored in. I'm coming to the office with my parents. I'm being examined. I'm going in the operating room. I'm being operated on. I'm going home. I'm fine. And each page. Well, page one said, when you come in, you meet someone called an anesthesiologist who's dressed in an outfit that looks like green pajamas. And the kid drew him in red. And it says he's wearing green pajamas. I said to and the anesthesiologist came running to me and said, Bernie, look what he drew. He said, I know your stuff isn't crazy. I said, yes, it's not crazy. Look at the last page. If he draws himself purple, spiritual color, he's saying I'm going to die in the operating room. And the anesthesiologist said to me, oh my God, Bernie, his mother has muscular dystrophy. If he has any of her genes, abnormal muscle genes, he could have had an adverse reaction to our muscle relaxants and died in the operating room. Now, the last page didn't show him in purple, but I said, we're not going ahead with surgery. We're not going to take a chance. But that was the part that changed so many people in the hospital and why so many people then were not afraid to talk to me. I mean, another if you don't want to hear some of these stories, you can interrupt me. But
No,
another
I
one,
love it.
I get paged by a lady because the nurses used to say, they're not your patients. Why do they want you? Because they can talk to me. I walk in, Dr. Siegel, I had a heart lung transplant. Yes. Last night, the man whose heart and lungs were in me said to me, I want to tell you what I want for breakfast. Put it in the order form when it comes tonight. She said, I'm afraid to tell anybody else that, but I know I can talk to you. I said, yes. Next time he comes to you, ask him what his family's phone number is. We can see if he's the person we can connect with them and learn. Sure enough, a day later, Bernie, here's the phone number. We call up, and his family said, yes, he died in a motorcycle accident. His heart and lungs are in her. And she wrote a book. What's it called? A Change of Heart. Yeah. Claire Sylvia, A Change of Heart. And that's got to be 10 more years ago, these things happen. But boy, it was hard for me to not be who I am when these people were telling me their true stories. So that's who I am. And I live the sermon, that, well, if you don't mind me continuing to talk,
Not at all.
a few years ago, I went in to wake my wife up. It's about 8 years ago, because she had multiple illnesses, all of which she outlived what her doctors predicted. I was so sick and tired of her doctors. You're not going to see these 3 kids grow up. I felt like hitting that doctor in the head with a mallet. What kind of a thing to tell your patient is that? But anyway, she saw everybody, 5 kids and everything. But one day I went in to wake her up, and when I picked up her hand, it was ice cold, so I knew she had died in her sleep. And she was in her late 80s. And nurses were on the way, so I just waited for them to come to help me, that day. They were going to do some things with her. But within 10 seconds, I had such severe chest pain, that impressed the hell out of me. I mean, I love my wife. She had died, but what it did to me. And yeah, I'm used to death and people dying, and I know she's been sick. I'm not a dumbbell, but I thought, well, you might drop dead right now. The pain is incredible. Well, I didn't, but I did develop a heart arrhythmia, and I have a pacemaker in now to control the rhythm of my heart. And, the other mystical things are that my wife still communicates with me through the use of numbers mostly, because she was born on 9/9. Okay. We were married on the 11th. My birthday's the 14th. Certain numbers. So I know that if I look at a clock, say it was on 9/9, my wife is saying, good morning, honey, or something like that. And I look for numbers to give me messages. Is this a good thing for me or not? Now, 9 weeks after my wife died, I was told, you need to go to the hospital. Well, I can't remember that. Maybe it was 9 days. But anyway, I go down the hospital, and walking in at Yale, this busy emergency room, I haven't even signed in. What does somebody yell? Put him in room 9. I said, oh, my wife's already here taking care of me.
Aww.
Then they said to me, you'll have to be in the emergency room overnight. We don't have a room for you in the hospital. Then they came and told me, we have the room now. It's called 819. It'll be ready tomorrow. And every number on my wristband for your diagnosis, and then the other wrist is your identity, they added up to symbolic numbers. 14s, 11s, 9s. And I kept showing them to people. And they thought, look, stop bothering us. You're crazy. What is that? But after a while, it began to get to them, because every time they'd move me to a new room or something else, it was always those numbers. And they began like, Maybe he's not so crazy. Maybe his wife is here. So I've
Mm,
saved all these stickers. I have them, well, like I'm sitting in a chair with wheels that we had in our house. And I put them on things like this that I sit in and use.
mm,
It's like my wife is with me, all those tags telling me she's still here. And I would say
beautiful.
to people, don't don't think it's nuts. Use it. Use the mystical part of our life and see if it doesn't help you know what's right for you.
That,
So it could be if I'm going to have surgery, what doctor do I want? What room should I be in? Some things may show up that says this is the right one for you. Go here.
mm, beautiful. So I know you've been thinking about writing another book, and I know you shared that it's about this idea of how we can have the best lives possible and how
Yeah, I
miracles.
mean, the title would be How to Live Your Longest, Healthiest, Most Profitable Lives.
Mm,
It's all part of the same thing. The
hmm
choices you make. And, and as I say, when people make the right choices, they live the longest, healthiest life.
hmm
So people need to think about it. It could be too. Draw a picture. If you said, I don't know what job to take, who to marry, where to go, what medicine to take, draw some pictures with crayons and see which look healthy, which don't. I mean, it's hard for me every time I start talking about this child who had extensive cancer. The mother was taking her literally around the world. And I finally said to the mother, stop. What are you doing to your 8-year-old? You want to cure her, but how do you think she feels being dragged around the world, literally, to go to all these clinics? Take her home and love her. And the mother realized that what she was doing made no sense after this. And I said to her, by the way, she drew a picture of her hospital bed and it was in purple. I said, she's ready to go. Take her home and love her. Well, the mother sent me a picture. I said to the mother, this is drawn by her daughter. I said, I can't interpret it because I don't know what the daughter's saying. But I said, there are 8 candle-like structures, and the last one is purple. So it may have to do with something in the future, what's going to happen to your daughter. Well, 8 days later, the mother called me. She said, Bernie, you had mentioned they were candle-like. My birthday is today. Amber brought me the drawing yesterday again. Said, Mom, tomorrow's your birthday. And she pointed, there are 8 days. She said, I'm dying tomorrow as a gift to you to free you from all the trouble.
Oh, that touches my heart. Wow.
And boy, think of how the mother felt with that rather
Mhm.
than, oh, I couldn't save my daughter's life. This is awful. So the mother kept sending me drawings that I just put up in my house, kept us connected and in touch
Mm,
with her and her daughter. But
it's beautiful.
yeah, those are the things that changed me.
Hmm
That these went on in people's minds,
hmm
and I didn't deny them. I mean, I even had some patients who were mystics, and they started calling me on the phone at home. Bernie, I got a message from a patient. Oh, this one was cute. The lady is an opera singer. She said everything's fine, because she had died the night before. Everything's fine. I'm all right. I wanted him to know. I said, oh my God, that's my mother in law. She died last night. She was a well known opera singer as a young woman, and I'm glad she's okay. And those are the kinds of messages I would get. They would tell me who the person was, and when I'd call the people, I knew who they were.
Mm.
They would say, yes, oh yeah, they died last night. Because I didn't know they died last night. I mean, sometimes it would be like somebody's husband. And I'd call the woman and they'd say, oh yeah, my husband died last night.
Mm.
But you can't deny those things. And that's why I'm different, because they've happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So when people got well and they weren't supposed to, I didn't have trouble saying, how come he didn't die when they were supposed to? Oh, well, I don't know what I've told you or if you've been to me before, because some of the people were so meaningful. Why I started ECAP, people need to understand that. I saw that some patients didn't die when they were supposed to. They did better than everybody expected.
Mm.
So I said to my wife, I need to teach a support group and teach others what these people are teaching me. You know, their attitude, their view of life, why they didn't die. And my wife said, yeah, that's good, good. And I said, all right, I'm going to send out a letter from my office. And I told my secretary, get in touch with lots of cancer patients, let them know. When she told me how many letters she sent, I said, I didn't tell you to send hundreds of letters. What am I going to do when all these people show up in this little room, you know, that maybe holds 15 or 20 people with them? My wife said, I'll come with you. Let me see what I can do to help you. We go down. I said to my wife, I can't believe this. She said, what is it? There are only 9 women here. My wife said, yes, they're exceptional women. I said, thank you. That's the name of my new support group.
Mm.
Exceptional Cancer Patients.
Mm.
Yeah. And it blew my mind that you tell people you want to live a longer, better life, and nobody shows up.
Mm.
And it was printed in your flyer, ECAT, on the screen here. It's ECAP for people. Okay,
Mm.
thank you. And so that's our group. And that's what we abbreviate it. And I learned they're exceptional people.
Mm.
And and then let me get back to more stories. We start the group. And then what happens? I notice after a year or two, there's some people aren't coming to meetings anymore. And nobody called to say they died or something happened or they didn't like what was going on. Because I had said to everybody, I get close to all of you. And I said to the families, if they die, call me. I'll come to the funeral. You know, I can deal with it. I'll come and I want to express my feelings too.
Mm.
So this guy I knew doesn't come back. I look in the records in the office and I see he left his cell phone number. And I thought, well, the family undoubtedly will have that still. So I called it. This is 4 years later.
Mm.
Who answers the phone? Hi, it's Dr. Bernie Siegel. I wondered what happened to John. Hi, Dr. Siegel, this is me. I said, John, why don't you come to a meeting? He said, Dr. Siegel, I went out to visit Colorado up in the mountains, and it was so beautiful. I thought, I want to move here and live here. So I moved. That's why I don't come to groups in Connecticut anymore. But it was so beautiful, I forgot to die. Those are his exact words.
Wow.
And I started spreading that around. And if you haven't heard that, you don't know the other one, which taught me a lot because one of the well-known churches in Manhattan said to me, would you come and lecture one night to cancer patients? I said, sure, I'd be happy to. They said, we'll invite somebody to introduce you who's familiar with you. I said, fine, that'll work well. So I go down there and I'm sitting up, you know, in the church on the podium waiting to start. And it's like 2-3 minutes before it's supposed to begin. And nobody's there to introduce me. And then I hear the door on the stage open and I turn around and there's this bum. I mean, he's dressed in old clothes, looking sort of rotten, dirty shoes. I thought, what the hell? I said, excuse me. If you have a trouble with alcohol or drugs, go downstairs to the priest. He'll help you find a group that support you and help you. And the guy says, I'm here to introduce you. I said, what? He said, yeah, you don't know my story. I was a multimillionaire. They told me I was going to die of cancer. So I canceled everything. I stopped dressing in rich clothing. I changed my office. I didn't give up my business, but I stopped trying to impress everybody with how many millions of dollars I had and all the money I was making. And I just told all my employees, relax and enjoy yourself. And he said, that was several years ago and I didn't die. uh, but that really impressed me. And it was a wonderful introduction to introduce him to people and say, here's a lesson for you.
Yes.
So that's what I want people to know and to not fear failure.
Can you
This
say more about that?
93. I didn't set out to be 93. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be 93. When I was younger, yeah, I exercised. I enjoyed it. I did things because I loved my life, myself, my wife, our children. We all did things, and so we survived. But you aren't trying not to die. Take your pills, do this, do that. No. When I was 70, I ran a marathon. Now, you could say that's crazy, but I just thought it'd be fun. And it took me twice as long as the man who won. But oh, our son, he made it a tough thing for me because I decided, see, I'd run a lot of marathons in New York. There, the bridges are very steep. It's no fun running over a bridge that's put there for cars over all those rivers. So I said, let's go to Cape Cod. We'll run over the sand dunes because my wife and I had a house there. We have 5 kids. And that's where we used to take vacations. You know what I mean? We'd get in the car, drive up here, and you'd go in your house and you were there. And so we went there. And what was I going to tell you now with Cape
About
Cod?
the marathon.
Yeah, the marathon.
Did you run it in Cape Cod instead of New York then?
Yeah, I'm running on Cape Cod. Our son, who's the one with the crazy sense of humor, he ran ahead of me, which he could do. I mean, he's a younger man. But I didn't realize it. He had done that to stop and tell people, my father's coming. He's got a shaved head. His name is Bernie on his shirt. Because he wrote that on my shirt, too.
Okay.
He said, when you see it, yell at him. Tell him, hurry up, speed it up, get moving. And I'm running, my 70th birthday, chugging along, and people are yelling, come on, Bernie, move it. Stop dragging your feet. Get going. And I thought, what the hell's wrong here? People know me maybe because I'm a doctor and I've done things.
Right, right.
Hey, they're picking on me. And then finally I stopped with some people. I said, why are you yelling at me? And they said, well, your son told us to yell at you to keep you going. I said, oh, now I don't have to get upset anymore.
Oh, but you did it at 70. That's impressive. Good for you.
Yeah.
But you did it because you loved it, is what you're saying, not just because you thought it would help you live till you're 93.
Yeah, now I don't have the time or the energy for that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'd love to go running, but it's like a meditation. You're alone with yourself and your thoughts and everything. So now I sit or even lie down. I mean, I'll do some energy things, but just I want to be with my own thoughts and what's in my head. And like you've said about writing a book, I write a lot of books in my head, but I don't sit down, and do it. I just keep coming up with more stories.
Even that seems like it's a healthy thing to do. Something that brings you joy is coming up with all these ideas, even if it's in your head.
That I really feel. I call it my meditation time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get up in the morning, but I don't get out of bed. And I lie there, and it's like my meditation. All the things I'm thinking about, feeling, Um, it is. It's being active in my head, and then I'll finally go and get breakfast or something.
Mm-hmm.
But my mind is active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I say, my body's the problem. My mind isn't.
Mm-hmm. Can you say a little bit more about that, like what your practice is when you lay in bed, or you mentioned you do some energy things too. If and it's fine if you don't want to share, but I'd love to
No,
hear more about
it's
that.
I don't really think about it. See, it's almost I like get into a trance.
Mm-hmm.
See, a lot of times I mention about my wife and numbers. I'll look at the clock, and I say, "Oh, she wants me to get up now." Um, some of the things are that I'll just think of myself, my body, send it love. Um, picture things if they're not feeling well, feeling better. Um, thank my wife for getting in touch with me, with certain symbols in the bedroom, lights that flash, numbers that go on. There's all kinds of things from all the years. I mean, because we married when I was in medical school, so we spent our whole lives together. I mean, I have to tell you this too. She didn't know I was as young as I was, or she wouldn't have married me. I mean, not that bad, but we were at, I got a job as a counselor at a camp because they were shorthanded. And they were hiring teachers. And I told them I'm a college student and all right, we need somebody. And they knew I liked kids and was going to be a doctor. And then my wife and I both were working with first grade girls and first grade boys. And she was the head counselor, and I was the bottom counselor and the boys. But we were watching the kids, and I said, just, aside, I said, it's nice. They've got the pool heated, so we can go in on any day or even at night. And she said, are you asking me for a date? And I wasn't, because she's so pretty. I never would have asked her for a date. But I thought, what do you got to lose? Yes, yes, of course. If you'd like to go tonight, we can go swimming. She said, oh, all right. So, what was funny is I mentioned her mother was an opera singer. When I got to their house and there was a piano, I started singing because my wife, her whole life, was never on time for anything. So I sat at the piano singing, and her mother shut the doors and the windows. And I said, excuse me, why are you shutting the doors and windows? She said, because I don't want my neighbors to suffer from your singing. She said, if you're going to see my daughter again, you're not allowed to sing in the house or the car. And then I learned she had been an opera singer, and I could understand where she was coming from.
Right, right. Oh.
I mean, my wife and I were so different, but so much alike. The things we loved, the
Mm.
kids and animals and everything. And so we stayed together. Yeah, we didn't, because we were late, we didn't go swimming. We went and sat and talked at some, like a club. I mean, not liquor, but, like a diner where you're sitting in a
Like,
booth and we had
okay.
something to eat and talk to each other. And we just were meant for each other. And
Mm.
so we ended up married.
Oh, that's such a good story. Sounds like you had a long, happy marriage.
Yeah, and her being a school teacher was a big help. We ended up with 5 kids, and the funny part is, after 3 boys, I said to her, I need a daughter so when I grow old, somebody will take care of me. And she said, I'm not going through any more pregnancies. I said, you have to one more time. And finally, she agreed. She taught kindergarten, so she was great with kids.
Mm.
And then um, what is it? The obstetrician came in and said to her, I just had an x ray made of your abdomen, to see, because I knew you're going to have twins. And he said, one of them is a girl.
Oh,
And my wife said, if it's 2 more, yeah, because she had said to me when he started saying, and it's twins, my wife said, if it's 2 more boys, I'm not coming home from the hospital. And my wife said, and the obstetrician said, no, one of them is a girl. And again, when she delivered, he said out loud for everybody in the hospital to know, what a gentleman. He let his sister out first. Because they all knew that if two boys came out, Siegel's in big trouble. And, there was no proof to it, too. One was a girl. But
Right.
she popped out first. Oh, it was the
Oh,
day after Christmas. And my wife
oh,
had amazing control of her body. Because the obstetrician said, well, you'll be in the hospital at Christmas time when you do. My wife said, I will not. When did she deliver? The day after Christmas.
oh. She wanted to be home with her
She
boys for
went to the
Christmas.
hospital the day after Christmas. She delivered. And of course, the obstetrician announced for the whole hospital, what a gentleman. He let his sister out first.
Oh, that's great.
So that was over the loudspeaker. Everybody knew Siegel and his wife will go home together.
Oh, that's great. Well, I absolutely love what you shared about visualizing in the morning, visualizing things that aren't well, visualizing them healthy and
Well,
connecting and
this is
being
why
grateful.
your beliefs, your body responds to what you picture.
Mhm.
As I said, I'm in severe pain because my loved one died. I didn't say to my body, "Oh, my loved one died. I should have a heart attack now." I mean, wham! In seconds.
Mm,
That's why I'm a doctor. That impressed the hell out of me. In
mhm,
seconds, I was in excruciating pain, like, oh my God, somebody stabbed me with a knife in my back.
mhm.
And, all the mind body stuff I'd done, I wouldn't do that to myself. I
Right.
know I love myself, my wife, but I'm not going to give myself a heart attack uh, because I loved her. She wants me to be well and stay alive, not die because I loved her. And those are the things that all woke me up.
Mhm,
And when you visualize, your body, in a sense, doesn't know this is not real. You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
like hypnosis. You're giving it messages, so you can dilate vessels, send white blood cells to fight an infection. You can do all kinds of things, and
mhm,
that's the part I became impressed with because there were patients, as I said, who didn't die when they were supposed to, patients who died when you didn't even know what are they dying of. You know what I mean? It's like they shut down their whole life, and
mhm,
so they were killing themselves in many ways because of what their lives were like. See, like even Monday morning, we have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses. So you see how your life affects you. And if you said, if this is how I feel about my job, I think I'll change my job. And I saw that happening to people too, because they would realize I can't take this. If I'm going to die, I don't want to spend the end of my life doing all this horrible work. So they changed jobs, and then they felt better, and they didn't die when everybody was predicting they were going to die. And those are the things that woke me up, and the things that other doctors couldn't deny. But the trouble with other doctors is they don't know their patients. They, when you say to a doctor, draw yourself working as a doctor. What do you think they leave out of the picture?
Patient, huh?
What?
The patient, I was gonna say, just because you led me
Yeah,
there.
they
So,
leave the patient out of the picture.
mm,
So they're not, they're treating a disease. They'll show you charts and instruments, in their office, but they don't show you a patient. So what are they treating? A disease. And that doesn't do as well as treating a person.
mhm,
And it starts, I mean, I was shocked because a lot of times I'd speak to medical students to try to help them out. And this one day we were outdoors, 90 students. I said, everybody draw yourself working as a doctor. One student put a patient in the picture, and they were standing together outdoors. And I thought, oh my God. In the medical schools, they don't listen to me either because I've stopped writing to them in this sense, but I said, when you send out a letter when somebody wants an application to apply to medical school, say with your application, send a drawing of yourself working as a doctor. And then if there's no patient in it, you could write back and say, if you want to come here, you have to think about taking care of people. It would be an awakening to the medical students.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to reject them, but to wake them up to what they're doing. Then you don't go to medical school and become depressed and unhappy. Because, if it's, I can't cure people, they're going to die, what am I going to do? Help make them happy, and then they won't die.
So can you
I don't
talk
mean
more
they
about
won't
that?
die.
Right.
They won't die on schedule.
Right.
That's the part I learned from patients.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, my exceptional patients in the office, people showed up. I'd say, how come you didn't die when you're supposed to? And they didn't have a problem with me telling me, new job, moved, all the things they did or changed their attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't die when they were expected to.
It sounds like your advice is, do what you need to do to be happy, because
Yeah.
that's good for your health, and also visualize
See, I
what you
grew
want.
up with that. See, I didn't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
I keep pointing out that Donald Trump, look what kind of a president he is and all the troubles he gets into. What did his parents say to him? What should I do when I grow up? Be rich. Be famous.
Mm-hmm.
See? What did I say? Mom and Dad, I don't know what to do. What should I be when I grow up? Do what makes you happy. Huh? How do I know what makes me happy? Do what makes you happy. What a difference between my parents and Donald's parents. And when I have trouble, see, I'm sure his parents, you embarrass us. You make us feel like you're a failure. If I went to my parents and said, I have a problem, God is redirecting you, something good will come of this. I thought it's pointless talking to my parents. I can't have anything go wrong. you know, um, it was just nuts. And that could be, it was anything. It could be your car broke down, to money, to what your job, anything. It was always God is redirecting you. And one other from my father, how do I know what I should be when I grow up? Look out. You will see a path. Follow your path. There are many ways to help people, many people who need help. Follow and do it. And let me tell you one story that really I often tell because it woke me up. I'm driving to the hospital one day. There's a guy standing next to his truck in the road. I thought, well, his truck must broke down. I'll ask him if I can help him. I said, can I help you? Do you need me to get somebody? Take you somewhere? He said, I just got fired from my job. I'm driving home and my truck breaks down. He said, the worst day in my life. I said, well, I don't live in this neighborhood, like the few streets there. I said, but do you have a phone? Can we call a garage? Take you over there and get you some help? And he said, yeah, that would be wonderful. And then another car pulls up. And the guy steps out and says, hi, can I help you too? Did you have an accident? I live in this neighborhood. Maybe I can get somebody, the police, a garage. I said, no, I'm on the way to the hospital. And he had his car break down. He got fired from a job today. So if you can help him, I can go to the hospital. You get him to a garage. And the guy says, what did you do? What you got fired from? And he tells him. And he says, really? I need somebody who does that work. And I love your truck. Can I buy that from you?
Wow.
And this really happened.
Wow.
I said to
Looking
the
at it as
guy, you see what I'm
redirection.
trying to teach you?
Mm-hmm.
You never know. Good things can happen. Your car breaks down, you've been fired, and look who shows up. You're gonna get a new truck and a job. And that really happened.
Well, that sounds like you were in the flow to me, that you follow, the
Yeah,
signs and
if I hadn't stopped, I never would have learned that. But
mm,
I cared about the guy.
mm-hmm,
And that's what we need to do is care about each other and ourselves.
mm-hmm.
And
You
so
mentioned
I try to live by my sermon too,
mhm,
to do things and say no to some things. It's a pleasure talking to you. But again, when I have a schedule, it's not as much fun as a blank day when I can do things when they happen. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Fit them in versus, okay, at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But
I have one more question if you have time.
I
Um,
have time.
yeah, so you mentioned um, loving yourself. And when you're in bed, you're thinking positive thoughts, and you just
Yes.
you just mentioned it again as far as you cared for him and you stopped on the side of the road when he broke down, but you also care for yourself. And I can
Yes.
you talk about that a little bit more? Because I think
Yes. It's not about being selfish.
hmm
See, I preach the same thing to every one of our family. When you got 5 kids, uh, there's plenty asking you for favors, but I can say no also.
hmm
And they've learned that if I don't want to do something, I can say no. Or if it didn't fit in today with what I'm doing. Or if they don't do what I'm asking them to do, they're not expect me to respond to everything they want. That we have rules and regulations, but it's not that we don't love each other. It's showing the love in practical ways. As I said, my wife having been, a first grade school teacher, she was great at knowing which kids were loved, how to teach them to love, and everything else. Because that was something I was impressed with. See, part of what made me me is my wife was a school teacher. I used to go with her when I had a day off from, college or medical school, and she was still teaching public school. And I would go in the classroom with her to help her out. And I started asking her questions about the kids. Some of the kids were so affectionate, friendly, others weren't, and how she dealt with them and knew and about families, and so I learned a lot about people and children from what she taught me, and I think that again helped make me a different kind of doctor and spend special time. See, I went after I graduated from medical school at Cornell, New York. I went up to train in surgery at Yale. And I wasn't impressed with the way they took care of children. Because what they were doing, a child was born with a defect, some genetic defect, um, and they had to operate to fix it. It's like your intestine isn't connected, okay? So you got to open both, two places and hook them together. And the doctor who was in charge of the pediatric surgery would run over to the medical library, get the book, look it up, and say, okay, this is what we need to do. I thought, what kind of school is this? He can't hasn't been trained, so he can't see the child and say, all right, I know what we need to do. You know, he has to go run, look in the book. I mean, it's not that he wasn't good at it, but why wasn't he trained and knew what was in the book? It's like, why hadn't he written the book? So I stepped back from my training there. I mean, I had started practice about to and took a year for pediatric surgery. And it's interesting. There were two places, Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. I knew the people there. And I ended up in Pittsburgh. He had taught at Yale and was there. So that's why the two choices. I would have gone to Philadelphia because it was closer to Connecticut. And it was interesting. What happens? I come back from Pittsburgh, trained now as a pediatric surgeon, and all the pediatricians started sending patients to me because they knew I had been trained. I wasn't going to go look in a book to figure out what to do. Well, what does Yale do? Now they're jealous. So they hired the pediatric surgeon from Philadelphia they didn't know I knew him, but they knew he was available. And he came to Yale, and that was fun because he wasn't my opponent, in practicing surgery. We worked together. If he was out of town, I took care of his patients. If I went away, he took care of mine. And I had partners, but they weren't trained in pediatric surgery. So we became each other's buddies, and it really worked out beautifully. And because it impressed the pediatricians that with training, what a difference it made to the families. Well, I told you the story about in the operating room and outpatient surgery and how different the kids were. Everybody called me a liar. Why? Kid would come in for surgery all nervous. I'd say, don't worry, you won't have any pain. And people would look at me like, how could you promise him no pain? I said, I have a sponge here. It's got something in it. You'll feel how moist it is. When I rub your skin, you won't feel anything there. It numbs your skin. Now, was I lying? Yeah, but I was hypnotizing him because it was an alcohol sponge. So I'd tear the label off and have this, and you'd rub it on his kid's arm, and then the anesthesiologist would come in and put an intravenous in or give them an injection, medication. And the kids would say, why don't the other doctors use that? Why don't the other doctors do that? They were amazed. They didn't feel the needle. And I must say, the anesthesiologists and nurses were pretty damn amazed too. That Siegel says, you won't feel this, and the kids are already hypnotized. And so it worked beautifully. That's, again, what changed the attitude and the atmosphere. I don't know if it's still like that with me gone, because I haven't been operating, but I'm sure they won't go back to where they used to be. Some of them may be embarrassed to act crazy like Siegel and lie to people. But, when I talked about it, I often use the word lie. But they would say, don't say you're lying. That's not good.
Well, you have changed things in your lifetime for so
Yeah.
many people, not just your patients, but also people like me who, our family had your book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And I wrote a paper in high school. It was the first year that I went to a public high school, and the English department was working together with the science department. I was taking biology, and we had to write a term paper. And both my teachers had their parents were going through cancer treatment at that time. And I decided that my thesis for that paper was going to be cancer is not incurable or something like that. And I quoted extensively from your book. So you were my hero, and how powerful visualization and
Yeah.
positive.
You had the courage to do that,
Well, it was thanks to
No, I
your
mean, the
courage.
teachers, they're fixed. When I told you about my college education, that I was an artist, um, I was very bad in literature and writing. So the only C's I got in 4 years of college were in creative writing because I was not a creative writer. And when
And
I
look
wrote
at
the
you now. How
book,
many
see,
books have
I
you
didn't
written?
write a
18?
bestseller. By that time, I was in a different mind. You know what I mean? I could just see. I didn't write the book literally. I sat down in front of a tape recorder and talked for hours and hours and hours, like I'm talking to you. And then I had somebody type it, and my wife and I reread the typing, and my wife could say, "That's not how you talk," and they'd correct it. Um, but when I wrote to my college, see, this is my crazy sense of humor. I said, I just had a bestseller. If you raise my grade from a C to a B, I would be entitled to high honors on my, documents in the school.
Mm.
And I thought they'd write back saying, thanks, Siegel, you made us laugh. But they wrote back with pages of, we're not allowed to alter grades after you leave. I wrote back saying, I'm sorry, you're so serious. I wrote it as a joke, that letter, and look how you reacted. I really felt sorry for them that they didn't have a sense of humor.
Mm.
But I realize it's, how your brain works. And you've got to know yourself and understand yourself.
So,
And yeah, because even that is so intuitive. When I say to you that I painted portraits, I have a portrait of every one of our children, myself and my wife and my parents. Um, and when I look at them now, I see that in them was who we were all going to become. I
mm,
mean, a simple example. One of our sons became a massage therapist. He'll be here tomorrow to massage me. That's why I'm 93, but he keeps my body in great shape.
mm,
And when he was going to become a massage therapist, I thought, why don't you become something, like more professional, a doctor, whatever. But that's what he wanted. Okay. I wasn't going to force him to not be that. So he becomes a massage therapist. Then I decided I'm going to do another painting and I painted him. But where is he sitting and what is he doing? He's sitting next to a big lion with his arms around the lion, massaging it. Now, that's when he was 7 years old. I painted that. He
mhm,
wasn't a massage therapist. But when I look at that painting, I thought, oh my God, look how I painted him. I felt something about him. And I'll just tell you one more that was dramatic. I painted his twin sister on the streets of town with people and cars, but there's a giant big black elephant behind her on the street. I thought, what the hell's wrong with you? You keep doing these stupid pictures. I thought he could trample her and kill her. She's a child walking down the street and not on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? She's going down the middle of the road and the elephant's behind her. Well, years later, she's married, has children. One of the kids, one of the first kids to be discovered with genetic defects, gave him a metabolic disorder that in those days was incurable. Doctors were just learning about these things.
mm,
He was the first child to survive at all,
mm,
to get out of the hospital, come home, lived a few years. And because of him, there are like hundreds and thousands of children who are alive today because the doctors began to discover what was wrong with him,
mm,
that his genes were not normal. And
mm,
so they began to looking in other kids when they had his symptoms and discovered that they could help them. Um, but I think those are all things that, happened to me and taught me about myself and my life. But here she is with this, black threat coming down the road after her. And then I realized, yeah, that was her son, Jason,
mm,
and what he carried with him and represented. And so every one of the kids, from the one who played drums and other things, um, and even my wife, um, what they looked like. Because I wanted my wife to be a beautiful, sexy lady. So I'm going to paint her in an evening gown and jewelry. And I started painting. I mean, this is a full size, painting. But after a few days, I thought, I don't like it. That's not my wife. I happen to walk out of the house and she comes riding her bike from when she was a kid, two wheeler, girl's bike, home from some exercise. And as she jumped off the bike, I yelled out, "That's you!" It was amazing to me that I screamed at myself, "That's you!" I thought, yeah, that's your wife. So I
mm,
ran back to the canvas and started painting again. Her standing over her bicycle.
mm.
And it's like within a couple of days, I had a complete painting of my wife. But
Wow.
for me, that was her.
Mm,
And there are, some pets in it which she loved and, things in the painting that were all a part of my wife. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I just want to say also, you have this beautiful, rare ability to really see people deeply. And I hear it with your, the way
Thank you.
you describe your family members, but your patients. And I think, your life is a beautiful testimony to what can happen when we really embrace our gifts. So there might, as you said, there may be many, many pediatric surgeons, all of which have great education, are good at what they do, but you stood out, and because of your ability to combine your art, you're very artistic and creative, and you think intuitively so you could have been an intuitive portrait artist if you
Right.
wanted. And you have this beautiful ability, which you describe with connecting with the kids in your wife's kindergarten classroom, and your patients. And I know that for a fact because the first time we met, or the only time we met in person, was in New Hope, Pennsylvania, at a huge health and wellness conference. And I was part of the group that organized the conference, and you were the keynote speaker. And I had written at that point, I loved writing and I loved healing work. And I had written just little paragraphs in the brochure that they handed out to everyone who attended. And I remember before you went on, you sought me out and you said, when I was introduced to you, you said, Laurie Smith, wait a minute, I know you. I read, not only had you taken the time to read the brochure from front to back before you went on, but you also, I just felt in that little conversation, I felt really seen, and that you really cared about me. And I was just, you were this big keynote speaker, and I was very young in my 20s at the time when we were organizing it. And, I think that is also one of your gifts, is this ability and the love that your parents taught you, how to really care about people. But you do have this rare ability to really see and know people and understand people intuitively and care. And that's what made you such a good doctor. And I think
And
there's a lesson
let
to
me
all of
tell
that.
you what I realize now is why I'm different. I am not supposed to be alive today. Literally. Our family doctor, because we were like half a block from two doctors' offices who took care of our family. Every time I'd walk by there as a kid going to school or playing in the streets, either one of them, if they were out of their office, would say, Barney, yes, you're lucky to be alive. And I used to think, why are you picking on me? I didn't have any idea what they're talking about. Barney, yeah, you're lucky to be alive. And I never asked anybody, why are the doctors saying that to me? I thought they were telling me I was a terrible kid and I should be dead. I mean, I had no idea. Well, as I got a little older and got interested in medicine, I began to notice records in our house. This is where my grandparents lived, my parents and myself and my sister, in the house that were from the hospital. And I noticed that I'm in them. And then I thought, it is strange. There's nothing in this house that shows a photograph of you as a child. Think of that. If your neighbor's had a kid, you expect to go over and see pictures of the kid. And there's not a single picture of me. And I started going through all the albums, and I found one that said Bernie, age 7, sitting in a carriage so far from the camera you can't see me. It's like a shadow of a child in a carriage.
Mm.
And that's when I showed up in front of my mother and said, what the hell's going on here? He said, Bernie, I had hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease. I was told by the doctors, don't become pregnant. It could kill you. You have a severe case and it could kill the child. And that's when I remembered photographs of my mother. And I thought, I knew she wasn't in a concentration camp, but that was my reaction. She looked like somebody who was in a concentration camp. Wasted body, bulging eyes, somebody who'd been starved.
Mm.
And then I realized, oh, she had thyroid disease. That's why she looked like somebody from a concentration camp.
Mm. And that was so long ago. They have treatments now, but at that time, I'm sure they didn't
Yeah,
have
they
any.
had no treatment for it.
Mhm.
And my mother's mother said to her, I want you to give me a grandchild. And my stupid mother, well, I wouldn't be here if she was smart, got pregnant. And now I hear this story when I have medical background and I'm looking through the family records and could really understand it. And my mother said, yes, I became pregnant. Um, my body was so weak I couldn't deliver. I laid in the hospital for weeks screaming. They told me I couldn't survive a cesarean section. So they made some special forceps which could reach way up inside and pull you out. And I said, it was like torture for me.
Oh, I
And they
can't
pulled
imagine.
you out, and they didn't hand me a child. They handed me a purple melon.
Oh.
And she said, that's why there are no photographs, because we weren't going to let neighbors see you or see a photograph of you. You were not a child, you were a purple melon. That's what woke me up. And I said, then how did I survive? Because this is what is literally true. You take a newborn kitten or a child, take it, stick it away hidden in a carriage or a crib or a nest, and don't touch it, feed it, or do anything with it, it dies.
Mm.
Within a few weeks, the body, the metabolism never turns on, and the kid dies. So I said to my mother, how the hell did I survive? Why didn't I just shrivel up and die? And these words are in my head forever. Oh, my mother took you. And every time you're supposed to get a feeding, every 4 or 5 hours, she would pour oil all over you and push everything back where it belonged before she fed you. I
So
said,
she
oh my
massaged you
God,
every
my
day,
grandmother
multiple
saved
times.
my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Through that
four, five,
love,
six
through
times a
touch.
day, my grandmother was massaging me
Mm.
and loving me. But let me tell you the proof of this. You see why love makes a difference. 40 years later, I'm a married man with kids. My wife and I are getting massaged regularly. We go to the therapist that day, and he said, I'm really busy today. I can't do both of you, but you're lucky. My wife is here. She can do one of you. So you both get massages today. I said, well, we love your coarse hands. I'm not going to deprive my wife of them, so you do her. I'll have your wife massage you. I get undressed, lie on the table in another room separate from where he's working. And there were a lot of people around in the room doing other things, but she needed, that as space to massage me. So she starts massaging me, and I felt it happen. I went back to being a newborn infant. Because
Mhm.
this is a woman's hands with oil on my naked body.
Mm.
Yeah, I had shorts on, my underwear on.
Yeah.
But she has my chest, abdomen, feet, hands, head. Yeah, and I had a shaved head then, see? So I'm like a newborn. And
Mhm.
so she's rubbing all these parts like would be exposed as a newborn. And I felt myself go into a complete trance because I became a newborn again and I couldn't respond to her. Dr. Siegel, raise your right leg. And I wouldn't budge. Turn on your side. And I didn't move. So she would push me, lift things, do things. And I knew she was annoyed with me and wondered what the hell's the matter with him. But
Mhm.
I couldn't talk. I was in a trance.
Mhm.
And I also knew other people in the room were beginning to wonder, what's wrong with him? He
Mhm.
doesn't answer her, he doesn't talk to her, he doesn't move. And finally, when she got done and stepped back and left me alone for a while, I began to come back into my body and conscious. And I sat up and I said to everybody in the room, I'm sorry if you were upset and frightened by what happened to me. I'm fine, but I have to tell you my story. What happened is I became an infant again.
Mhm.
And I told them why I didn't react and what my grandmother had done.
Mm.
And and those things are still, I mean, it's a joke because my body is deformed. Okay, there are certain bones out of position, turned, twisted. My right leg is this way, and uh, they're all things that were due to what happened during the labor or pulling me out of the uterus. So as a kid, I didn't understand when chiropractor, family doctor would say to me, "You need to get something done about your leg." And I'd say, "I can walk. What are you talking about?" But my right leg is shorter than my left, turned to the outside. In other words, if you see my footsteps, one is straight and the other is, I don't know why my, see, I can't even tell like what's, I'm looking at my right hand in the picture.
Right. It's a reverse. It's like a
Yeah.
mirror. Yeah.
So you see, when I walk, my right foot points to the side, and my left foot goes straight ahead.
Mm.
And so
And
doctors
look
used to
at
say
you,
to me,
93 though. Like that's such a good, it's so hopeful for all of us because we all have things that aren't quite the way
"Yeah,
maybe they should or weaknesses in our body,
but
but
we have ways of learning
yeah.
how to adjust, how to keep doing things,
Hmm.
um, and not be, failures and cripples and you know ugly and all those things. Yeah, and that's why I have to keep thanking my parents that they took home this battered kid and loved him. They said no photographs, but yes, you were a purple melon. That's all my mother ever kept telling me. You're a purple melon. And I didn't know what she was talking about, when I was younger and hadn't heard what had really happened. Or as I said, the doctors, if they had said to me, "You don't understand. You could have died when your mother gave birth, and you're here and alive. So you should be grateful, and understand what I'm telling you." Yep. And
It's
it's
a
fun,
beautiful story.
finding things still with my body. I mean, one of the things I'll say to people, see, I can put my fingers around my left hand around my right arm. They're
Hmm.
meeting on the other side. But on this side, they don't meet. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? This arm is more muscle than the right side.
Hmm.
This whole side is different than this side.
I
Yeah.
never would have known that. And look at you. I mean, all the things that you accomplished with your life on the deep, soulful level,
Well, the
as well as.
time I laugh every day is when I go in the bathroom because it's a tile floor. The whole floor is the same tile, like an inch and a half, four
Mhm.
sides, and the whole floor is all these tiles. And when I put my feet down, sitting on the toilet, the right foot is going over a lot of tiles, and the left foot is going straight ahead.
There you go.
Like it'll cover 5 rows of tiles, and this one covers 3. How wide it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. This was such a great conversation.
Let me interrupt you right there.
Yes.
That's what we all need to say to other people. Thank you. This was a great conversation. That is a gift to me. You see, and that what we're saying is teaching each other. Not, "I don't have any more time. Stop all this craziness." Yeah, because there are people that react that way to you when you really need somebody to listen and to help you. So God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too, Bernie. And happy birthday. What is your birthday? Your 93rd birthday is coming up. You said
Well,
as we're
October
recording.
14th
What is
is
it?
October 14th.
October 14th. Wonderful. Well, I'm an October birthday too. So I
Uh,
I would love to air this in October in honor of your 93rd birthday as I'm recording it. So I'll
Thank you.
talk to you afterwards and we'll do all the business. I'll just get your permission. But do I have your permission to air this recording and the
Yeah.
video in honor of your birthday so other people can benefit from your wisdom,
Yes.
everything that you share.
Yeah. My sense of humor is say, please send money.
Well, I will definitely send you a link to this
You
and
know,
your
it
website.
people know I'm crazy, so I get away with a lot. You know what I mean? They don't go home saying he's rude, he's awful. They say no, he's just crazy, and so they all end up loving me.
Well, that's great. Well, I just loved this conversation, and I just feel so grateful. When I think about it, I keep thinking I just feel like you are a part of my story. My dad loved your books, loved everything that you did, both personally for himself and for the people he served. He was a minister, and um, so anyway, you made an impact
That's
on
the
me as a
way why
child.
we connect. You know
Yes.
that we share stories so we
Mhm.
can understand each other and talk to each other.
That's a really good point that we share stories.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that, that I could become a minister or well, did we talk about my guide, George?
Yes, in the last interview. That's in the book, my book.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody to come up to me and say, Bernie, are you Jewish? Why are you asking? There's a rabbi standing next to you. And there's nobody there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She saw this guide I met in a meditation.
Mm,
And I didn't know why he was dressed the way he was. Yes, I'm Jewish, but you're doing a meditation at a workshop. I thought, I'm looking for some, really substantial guy. I thought, not this one dressed in, strange things, especially with his yarmulke, because a black, thing on his head. I mean, it never occurred to me. He's a rabbi, and that's what's on his head is a prayer cap, not some strange
mm.
garment. Yeah. So, and we've talked about George, as you said. He has saved my life. Oh, he has been with me, and during my lectures. See, again, what made me a believer. I'm sorry to keep taking all the
That's
time, but
okay.
was people coming up to me and saying, "Dr. Siegel, yes, there was a man standing in front of you while you were lecturing. I drew his picture for you," and I thought, "Oh my God." I wondered why I was saying so many things I hadn't planned to talk about today at my lecture.
Mm,
Why didn't I look? Wasn't I looking at my notes?
mhm,
And I realized, yeah, it was George was there doing things, and some of the people could describe him. As I said, like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I knew they were all seeing the same people. And
mhm,
then, which I've told you, I'm sure, when I fell off the roof, I knew George saved my life.
mhm,
Because you see, it's not just you're lucky, because people see some people will hear my stories and say, "Oh, Bernie, how can I believe that? You were lucky. That couldn't be."
mm,
But to falling from a roof, and I always say to people, think of it this way: your kid is in the crib. You go over the crib, you pick your kid up, and put it down on the floor. You don't drop him.
mhm,
I said, I'm falling from the roof, and I feel somebody grabbing me, and I just going down slowly. Instead, I'm not falling anymore.
mhm,
Somebody's putting me down. And so, yeah, my feet hit the ground a little hard. So I toppled. I didn't get hurt. I mean, I just lost my balance. That's when everybody came running out of the house screaming, call an ambulance, call an ambulance, because they saw me on the ground.
mm.
I said, stop. I'm fine. And then I look
Amazing.
at you. What do you mean you're fine? How can you fall off a roof and be fine? Yeah, my angel.
Well, you are obviously very tapped in and have been your whole life. And I think your open heart and your willingness to be used, and use your gifts in ways that are good for humankind, really just shows us each what is possible if we're really able to tap our gifts and share them. So,
I'd
and
say that to everyone. Don't be worried about what other people think of you.
mm,
Worry about what you think of you,
mm,
you know, and you just tell them, I love you and be who you are.
mm, it's a beautiful message. Well, I'm excited to be in a position where I can share this message on my podcast
Thanks.
and on YouTube, and I will do that because I just believe in it so much, and I just
Let me add one more thing. I would tell
please.
people visit with their kids
Mhm,
because we have, my one daughter, and what a difference it is. She came over the other day, and I see my wife and myself in five faces. You know what I
mhm,
mean? It's like talking to yourself in your past. But
mhm,
having our daughter here for a few hours the other day was such a gift to have her talk to me, which is harder to get sons to do. Though one of the sons, another gift, he sent me a photograph in the computer of all our family. That's a lot of people,
mhm,
him and all of them and their spouses and their children, my grandchildren. And I looked at that and I went into a trance.
mhm,
The love that radiated off my computer from this enormous photograph that filled the whole screen.
mhm,
And I said to him, "Thank you. What a gift this is. You've given me this gift, and I'm in a trance of all of you and how I love all of you and the from you coming to me." And I tell people, do those things.
mhm.
All right, I'm going to stop.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation, and I'm so grateful.
Well, tell other people. You want to have a great conversation? I don't know whether Elizabeth taught me this or not. Learn how to go, in 27 ways.
That is good advice.
You want to be a good therapist? I like what you said. And people, I've done this to people where I've never said anything but And one man said to me, "That's the greatest conversation I've ever had with anyone." Those were his words, and all I'd ever said the whole time was
On
All right.
that note, we'll end. Thank you so much,
All
Bernie. This
right.
is
You'll
just
tell
an
me where to send the
honor.
bill. Okay. Bye.
All right. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.